Om Sarve Sukhina Santu Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukham Apnuyat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from disease. May all beings see only what is good and positive in others. May no one have to undergo any kind of suffering. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So good morning, everyone. It's been a while since we had an open lecture, an official lecture, at least that I give. We had Swami Nirakarananda's last week, but for me it's been a while since I saw so many faces. I'm sure Swami Nirakarananda said the same thing during his talk. So we are slowly coming back to normal. Hopefully we won't have to wear the masks soon, but at the moment we still have to. The subject today is, how can Vedanta help us? We face many problems and challenges in our lives, and we are always looking for ways and means to solve these problems, to overcome these challenges. So in that respect, we are very practical and very inquisitive. We are always looking for ways and means to improve ourselves, to solve whatever challenges we have. If somebody came to you and showed you a gizmo that you have never seen before, it may be very appealing, may look very, very sleek, very nice. But the first question you will ask is, what is it for? What does it do? It may look like a very nice gizmo, but unless it fulfills some purpose, we are not interested in it. So suppose somebody says, oh, this is let's say you can travel in time, 30 years, and you show somebody a mobile phone, and they say, what is this? They have never seen anything like that. And you say, it's a phone. What does it do? It's to make phone calls. And then the next question they will ask is, how does it work? So we are always asking these two questions. What does it do? How does it work? Nowadays, a phone, yes, primarily you make phone calls. But you can do so many other things with the phone. You can, I don't need to enumerate, it's infinite, the number of things you can do with a phone. So when you ask, how does it work? You get all these answers. So we are very practical in this respect. But what happens when we come to spiritual life? Somebody says, oh, believe this because it's written in the Bible or it's written in the Vedas, and we are happy with it. Okay. Anything else? No, that's it. Just believe and you'll be saved. So we are not very practical when it comes to spiritual life. Imagine somebody came and said, give me your money and I will double it after a year. Well, you would say, okay, how are you going to do that? And he said, oh, don't worry, just trust me. You know, so many people have done the same thing. They are happy. Just trust me, I will do it. You'll say, no way. Unless you tell me how you intend to generate that income, I'm not going to give you my money. So we are very practical and very inquisitive when it comes to our everyday activities. But in spiritual life, it seems that we are contented with believing. We wouldn't believe in other fields, but in spirituality, I believe I'll be saved. Fine. No more work to be done. Vedanta says no. We have to be as inquisitive and as practical in spiritual matters as we are in our day-to-day life. We should be able to ask, okay, you're offering me spirituality. What does it do? How does it work? And we should be able to get some answers, not just believe it, because a prophet had this revelation thousands of years ago. So one prophet said one thing, another prophet said something completely different, opposite. Who are you going to believe? So this is the source of all the contention between the different religions. So we should be able to ask these two questions. What does it do? How does it work? Often you hear about Vedanta, the complaint that it is not very practical. Oh, only Brahman is real and the world isn't real. If the world isn't real, then what's the point of anything? The world is like a dream. Then what's the point of anything? But Vedanta is very practical, actually, and very helpful. It may not be in a very obvious way. Suppose some religion will tell you, give me 10% of your income. That's very practical, especially for the ministers. But, but what is it? How does it help me? So when you come to Vedanta, the help is there. It is changing our lives, maybe in ways we don't even realize. We may not be aware of how Vedanta is changing our lives. So we are going to see a few instances of this. What does Vedanta do for us? The first thing you will notice is it changes our worldview, how we look at the world, how we look at ourselves, how we look upon others, and how do we fit in this universe. Vedanta will change all that in ways that perhaps we may not be much aware. The physicist Max Planck said, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. It sounds like a tongue twister, but it's a very deep saying. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So, to give you a couple of examples of to what extent things change when we change the way we look at them. Take, for instance, the constellations. You see in the sky at night, if you go out to town, lots of stars. Now, in ancient times, the constellations were a big deal. They gave clues as to when to sow the seed. They gave clues as to how to navigate the seas. These were important things. The sailors wouldn't find their way navigating unless they could look at the stars, as the constellations. So what did they do in ancient times? Well, they grouped together some stars and they gave them names and shapes. So out of the vast number of stars in the sky, they picked a few and they say, okay, this is Orion, the hunter. This is the Southern Cross. There's no cross. There's no hunter in the sky. It's just a bunch of stars. Out of our own minds, our own imagination, we are projecting that is a hunter. That is the Southern Cross. And please switch off your phones. So whenever we look at the stars, we will see this shape. But is it really there? Well, yes and no. It is there because we have created it. from our own imagination. And now we say, oh, these are the constellations, so and so. So whenever we look, we are likely to find that constellation, but it's our own invention. It's our own invention. To give you one more example, there is a tree in India called Nagalingam. It's a beautiful tree, and you'll find it has a thick trunk. From the trunk, there are stems, like they're perpendicular to the trunk. And at the end of these short stems, there are flowers. So you will find, at a certain time of the year, the whole trunk is covered with flowers. Beautiful, fragrant flowers. Now, why they gave this name, Nagalingam? Naga means serpent or snake. Lingam is the Shiva Lingam, the symbol of God. So when you look at the flower, the center of the flower has the shape of the hood of the serpent and the Shiva Lingam below. So in the temples of Shiva, you will find this image, the Shiva Lingam with the snake covering it, protecting it with the hood. So imagine the parents when they show this tree to their kids. Look, that's the Nagalingam tree. Do you know why? Let me show you. Look at the flower. You see, this is the snake. This is the Shiva Lingam. So that is what is called Nagalingam. So for the rest of their lives, those kids, when they look at that tree, they will think of Shiva. Is Shiva really there? So there is another name for that tree. It's called Cannonball Tree, and it's the same tree. So when the British were in India, they saw that these flowers became fruits, and they became big, round, heavy fruits, hanging from the same trunk. So in a certain time of the year, you will find the whole trunk filled with this, covered with this seeming, looking like cannonballs. So what will the parents say to their kids? Look, that is the cannonball tree. You know why? Because it's covered with cannonballs. So it's the same tree. One person will associate it with a certain idea, another person will associate it with another idea. It's the same tree. So in this way, we are always projecting from our imagination, knowingly or unknowingly, things upon the world. So we change the world, and we don't even notice it. So Vedanta will also help us change our view of the world, knowingly or unknowingly. One important question when we come to spiritual life is, what is God? What is God? What is the nature of God? So what does Vedanta have to say about God? We are going to see what Vedanta has to say with just 4 sentences. They are called Mahavakyas, the great utterances. You will find them in different Upanishads. And these Mahavakyas give us an idea of how Vedanta changes our view of the world. So in the Aitareya Upanishad, you find this statement, Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is intelligence. Brahman is consciousness. So this is the Vedanta definition of God. What is God? God is pure intelligence. Now, we are intelligent beings. Is it like our intelligence? No. It is the source of all intelligence. It is absolute intelligence from which every other intelligence borrows its consciousness. Imagine there is a sun and you have 1,000,000 little mirrors. And these mirrors reflect a perfect image of the sun. So it looks like 1,000,000 suns. Now, you destroy the mirrors. What remains? Only the real sun. So these 1,000,000 mirrors reflecting perfect images of the real sun, is like our consciousness. It is borrowed from this source of all consciousness. Our intelligence is reflected, is borrowed from this source of all intelligence, and that is God. So that is the definition of God according to Vedanta. Another name that we find for God is Sat Chit Ananda. We have heard this many times. Sat, conscious, existence, life. Chit is consciousness, intelligence. Ananda is bliss. Now, this definition of God is very universal. This God is worshipped by atheists, believe it or not. When you analyze what do human beings run after, what are we searching for? Whether you are a believer or an atheist, we are looking for nothing but this, Sat Chit Ananda. Life or existence, consciousness or knowledge, and bliss. Nobody wants to die. Even the atheist doesn't want to die. So even the atheist is trying to preserve their lives, trying to be immortal. Even the atheist will try to be immortal. If you offer an atheist, look, you're supposed to live 70 years, but if you want, you can live another 70 years. They will say, yeah, sure, I don't want to die. I don't believe in God, but I don't want to die. So the atheist also is trying to understand, what am I doing here? What is my life? What is the meaning of my life? Even an atheist will ask themselves, what's the purpose of my life? And even an atheist is running after happiness. Nobody will enjoy a toothache or a headache. So everybody is trying to be happy, to avoid suffering. So in that sense, this definition of God, Sat Chit Ananda, is the most universal. We are all searching for this God, whether we admit it or not. Now, this source of all intelligence has a peculiarity. Although it is transcendental, although it is infinite, beyond time and space, name and form, it assumes a form. And we call it avatars, we call it prophets, we call it gods and goddesses. So this is where Vedanta can get confusing. You just said Prajnanam Brahma. You just said God is intelligence, absolute, unconditioned. And now you're telling, yeah, God also becomes gods and goddesses and prophets and saints and avatars. How can it be two? Well, imagine an ocean of consciousness, an ocean of absolute intelligence, which is hard to imagine. We can imagine an ocean, but not an ocean of consciousness. But anyway, imagine that ocean of light and intelligence produces a wave. And now we say that in the ocean there is a wave. It has a shape and it has a name. Then the wave subsides and we say there is only the ocean. Now, what was that wave? It was made up of nothing but the water of the ocean. It was never separated from the ocean. It never ceased to be the ocean. The wave was the ocean, was one with the ocean all through, all the time. But for a certain period, it adopted the shape of the wave and then subsided. So the avatars, the incarnations, are just like that. In a mysterious way that we cannot comprehend with our limited understanding, these messengers come from that realm of consciousness and intelligence to help us. How can we interact with an ocean of intelligence? It's very difficult. We can accept the idea, We can be inspired by it. We can believe in it. But we need something more concrete, and that is the avatar. Jesus Christ, Ramakrishna, Buddha, whoever you like. Your own teacher. You can regard your teacher as God. Anything that helps us to gain access to some kind of interaction with God, not just that transcendental intelligence. So Vedanta is practical and is helpful in this way. It gives us the idea that God is universal. From that ocean, why should I say that only one wave can be produced? Only Jesus. There was only one wave, and there will never be another wave. Vedanta says no. Infinite number of waves. Why restrict the ocean? So what are the consequences of this philosophy? What is the effect of believing in this? We will not quarrel with anyone. We get rid of dogmatism. We get rid of narrow-mindedness. Now, we don't even think about this. What a blessing it is to be able not to hate others, not to harass others for the sake of religion. We just take it for granted that, yes, in Vedanta we accept everybody as true. But it's a big deal to be free from that burden, either feeling superior or feeling enmity towards others. Why? Vedanta says even atheists are fine. We have no problem with an atheist. They are just as good as believers. They are going along their own path. Who are we to preach to them? They have their own intelligence. We have our own intelligence. Let the atheist figure out what's good for them. Swami Vivekananda said, to be good and to do good, that is the whole of religion. He said, many atheists are better than so-called believers because they are freed from hatred and this holier-than-thou attitude. So that is very practical. So that is regarding the help that Vedanta gives us with this idea of God. God is transcendental, but also comes as the avatars, as the saviors, and we accept everything. We have no problem with anyone. The second Mahavakya is Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Now this is called Anubhava Vakya. The other one was called Lakshana Vakya. When you say Prajnanam Brahma, you are defining what is God. Lakshana Vakya. What is God? God is pure consciousness. Now you are asking, who am I? Aham Brahmasmi. But there is a distinction. This is not Lakshana Vakya. You are not defining who you are. You have to experience. You need to experience that. Just saying, I am Brahman is not enough. Knowing I am Brahman, that is what we have to achieve. So this comes from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, actually. In ancient Greece, there was this temple of Apollo in Delphi, where many maxims were written on the walls of the temple. And there were 3 at the entrance, like a more prominent. One read, nothing to excess. We can understand that because we human beings tend to go to excesses. We always eat a little more than we need to, watch TV a little longer than we meant to, etc., etc. We always have difficulty finding the middle path. Buddha said, follow the middle path. Krishna said, yoga is not for those who eat too much or too little, work too hard or are too lazy, sleep too much or too little. For those who are moderate in all these things, yoga puts an end to all their sufferings. So nothing to excess. That was the first saying. The second saying, which is a little puzzling, is certainty brings ruin. Certainty brings ruin. How do you explain that? Well, the ancient Greeks, they admired the skeptics. They believed that to be a skeptic was a good thing, a desirable thing. Now, when we say I'm a skeptic, in the modern sense, it's a bit like negative connotation. I'm skeptical, I don't believe. But in ancient times, to be a skeptic meant to suspend your judgment. I suspend my judgment. I'm not sure if what I see is really what I think it is. So the Greeks thought this is a good thing a good trait, to be a skeptic. You know, for many years in ancient times, they believed that the earth was flat, that the earth was the center of the universe, that the sun moved around the earth. Then they found out, no, the earth is not the center of the universe, the earth is not flat, and it is the earth that moves around the sun. But for a long time, we had the wrong idea. And we thought, this is the truth. So this saying says, don't trust your senses. Don't trust your intelligence. Keep an open mind. You may be wrong. Be ready to acknowledge that. Be ready to revisit your ideas. Another example. We believe now, we are convinced we are human beings. Vedanta says, you are pure spirit. Now the time will come when we'll realize, oh, I am pure spirit, and I thought I was a human being. Just as funny as to think that the earth is flat. So I thought I was a human being. And no, I am divine. So we have to keep that open mind. I may be wrong. In fact, we are wrong in many ways. We just don't know about it. And the third saying, which is relevant to our talk, I was digressing a little bit. The third saying, and the best known, is, know thyself. Who am I? And this is the question that Aham Brahmasmi answers. I am Brahman. I am pure intelligence, pure consciousness. So that will also change our perspective on ourselves. Now the problem is, of course, that when we ask ourselves, who am I? And we try to find out through introspection, confusion arises. Because somehow we are caught up in this body. And we are prisoners of a certain mind. And we cannot find a way out of this entanglement. Say, if I say, I have a toothache, okay? Now, it is the pain is produced in the tooth. It's part of the body. And I say, I have a toothache. I am experiencing that which is happening. I can see, if I use a mirror, I can see my tooth. It's not me. But I say, I have a toothache. I identify with that. Why? Because we are caught up in this identification with the body. We say, I am depressed. Now, am I really depressed? There are certain thoughts in the mind that are causing a certain feeling. And as a result of that feeling, I say, I am depressed. Really, it is some thoughts in the mind. But we identify with those thoughts and we say, I am depressed or I'm happy. I have a toothache. So, this is the problem, confusion. Who am I? Vedanta says, I am Brahman. That is who I am. How to reconcile this? Vedanta gives a very nice name to this condition. Chit Jara Granthi. Chit is consciousness. Imagine one thread. And Jara is matter, something unconscious, dead matter. Granthi is a knot. So these two threads, they come together, consciousness and matter, and they become entangled. It becomes a knot, and we cannot disentangle it. And this is the human being, is this entanglement of consciousness and matter. And we find ourselves in the middle of this. And we say, Aham Brahmasmi. It is true, we believe it, but this is the condition. You have to disentangle to be able to really experience that. I am Brahman. So, it is good to practice introspection, to observe ourselves, particularly our minds. The body is pretty obvious. It's young, it's old, it's healthy, unhealthy, but the changes of the mind, we should observe. We should become familiar with our own minds, how we think, how we assume things, how we take things for granted, how we are conditioned by our own thoughts, how much we are conditioned by them. In modern times, it seems that the more we are connected outside, the more is the disconnect within us. Outwardly, we are doing things that were unimaginable even 20 years ago. You know, you are walking maybe in a deserted place, in some national park, and you can have a video conference with the other end of the world for free. I mean, that is unimaginable, the connectivity that we have achieved. So outwardly, we have so much connectivity. We look at our phones, the contacts is endless, the list of contacts, because we are making contacts right and left. Whatever we do, there is a contact and there is a password, and we are accumulating all these things. So okay, who can I call? It's like unlimited choice. But within, complete disconnect. Who am I? No clue. We have given up even trying to find out. It's just hopeless. There is a nice story about Nasruddin, the Sufi mystic. Once his neighbor found him looking for something at night, and he asked him, Nasruddin, what are you looking for? He said, oh, the key to my house. Then the neighbor said, oh, I can help you. Where did you lose it? Nasruddin said, inside the house. Then the neighbor said, then why are you looking for it outside? Oh, because inside the house it is dark. So it makes no sense at all. This is what we are doing. Just because inside is dark, we are looking for the key to all our problems, to the solution outside. But yes, there is light, we can understand, but the solution is not there. We lost it within, we have to search within. So Swami Vivekananda, although we believe in this, Aham Brahmasmi, he made it very clear when he said each soul is potentially divine. He added this very important word, potentially. We are divine, but potentially. We have to manifest it. Suppose you read somewhere that they're selling some seeds of an apple tree that is the best tree in the world. It has won all the prizes and all the awards. So you buy those seeds, and it is the best apples you can get. Now you will still have to sow the seed. You will still have to water the plant and protect it and take care of it. Then you will get the best apples in the world. Just buying the seeds is not enough. It is potentially the best apples in the world. We have to help the tree grow and reach its full potential. So that is what Swami Vivekananda meant. Yes, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. It is true, we believe it. But we have to practice it. We have to bring it out of us. We had to develop and manifest it. So how does this help us? This idea that we are divine, it will help us a lot, even we may not be aware of it. All the negativity that I am a sinner, that I am worthless, that I am hopeless, it will go away. I am a child of God. I am divine. The more we read the literature, the more we hear these thoughts, this idea becomes more and more part and parcel of our psyche. It becomes part of who we are. We are divine. We believe that there is no death for us. There is no sin for us. Yes, we make mistakes. Yes, we change bodies. We just change bodies. The Gita says it very clearly. Just as in one lifetime we go through different phases called childhood, youth, middle age, and old age, in the same way, we go through different lifetimes. In one lifetime, we are experiencing several lifetimes, aren't we? Child, lifetime, youth, lifetime, old age. It's like this is a different person, but it's in the same lifetime. So why not continue with that in different bodies? The Gita says that is exactly what we do. We continue our evolution, not just in one lifetime, but in many lifetimes. So this is regarding the question, who am I? Now comes, what is our relationship with others? How are we to interact with others? You will find the next Mahavakya is Tattvam Asi. That you are. It comes from the Manduki Upanishad. So it's a beautiful passage from the Upanishads. Uddalaka's son, Shvetaketu, went to study with his guru. After 12 years, he comes back, and the father notices that he has become proud. So he asks him a question. My dear boy, can you tell me what is that by which we hear what is inaudible? We perceive what is unperceivable. We know what is unknowable. And the boy, with all his knowledge, with all his pride, he had to admit, no, sir, I don't know. What is that? Then the father says, he gives beautiful examples explaining what it is. It is Brahman. It is the self of the whole universe. It's the self in every being. He says, just like by knowing a lump of clay, we will know the composition of everything that is made out of clay. Just like by knowing a lump of gold, we will know the composition of everything that is made out of gold. In the same way, O Shvetaketu, by knowing this Atman, we will know the being of the whole universe. When you know Brahman, you know everything. Because Brahman is the self of all. Then he says, Tattvamasi, and you are that. He says to the son. He repeats 9 times. That you are, O Shvetaketu. So how does that help us? Imagine when you deal with others. Mentally you tell them, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, you are that. We treat them as such. You are Brahman. You present yourself to me as a human being, but mentally I look upon you as divine. Otherwise it wouldn't be fair to say, Aham Brahmasmi, but you are a human being. That's not fair. That is one-sided. So we have to be fair. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, but Tattvamasi, you are that as well. I respect you as such. I serve you as such. I treat you as such. You are that. In the Maha Upanishad, it is said, small-minded people, they distinguish, saying, these people are my relatives, those are strangers. But those who are large-hearted, the wise, they consider the whole universe to be their family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is a famous saying in Vedanta. The whole earth, the whole world is my family. Now, does it mean that we are going to hug everybody and kiss everybody? And no, of course not. It's an inner attitude. We have to be practical. What are we going to do with troublemakers? What are we going to do with people who give us a hard time? Are we going to hug them and try to make them our friends? Yeah, you can try, but what if you fail? There are some cases when it is very difficult. We want to love others, but the others have already made up their minds. They won't love us. What are we going to do? What is the solution? And then there is the troublemakers, people who by nature, they create trouble. Willingly or unwillingly, it seems that it is their fate to create trouble. There's a nice Sanskrit saying in the Hitopadesha. It says, avoid the company of troublemakers. They are like charcoal. Their nature is like charcoal. If you touch charcoal when it is hot, you will get burned. If you touch it when it is cold, your hands will get stained. So either way, either hot or cold, you'll get into trouble. So some people are just like that. Of course they are Brahman. Of course they are divine. Sri Ramakrishna said, God dwells in all beings, even in the tiger. But you can't go and embrace the tiger. Salute the tiger from a distance. Salute God the tiger from a distance. So that is the practical way to deal with it. Holy Mother could love everyone because she was aware of her motherhood to all beings. Now suppose a mother has a really naughty child, a real troublemaker. He makes everybody's lives hell. But the mother will always find a way to excuse the child and say, no, you don't understand him. I am the mother, I know. Of course she knows. Of course she's the mother. She can understand, she can see why the child is behaving like that. But we need a mother's heart to be able to forgive and accept people as they are. You know, Holy Mother said, the whole world is your own. But we can only try to the best of our ability to put that into practice. For her, it was a fact. The whole world was her own, and she could forgive anything. For us, it's harder. We have to practice. We have to be aware of it. There's a nice saying from Lincoln. He said, I don't like that person. I should get to know him better. So many times when we don't like somebody or we cannot get along, it's just because we don't understand the other person. It's not because there is something wrong, like intrinsically wrong with them. It's a matter of miscommunication, lack of understanding. Yeah, we all have our quirks and peculiarities, but if we get to know each other's quirks and peculiarities, I know that this bothers you, then I try to avoid doing it. But if I don't know that this bothers you, and I keep doing it all the time, how are you going to feel? So, I don't like that man. I should get to know him better. The more we know others, the more we understand them. And the more we understand them, the more we accept them as they are. So yes, Tattvamasi, you are divine. But when it comes to human relationships, it's not so easy to put it into practice. Now, Patanjali gave a recipe for human relationships in his Yoga Sutras. He says, how to preserve your peace of mind when dealing with others. He gave 4 steps. He said, in the company of those who are happy, be friendly. In the company of those who are unhappy, be compassionate, be understanding. In the company of those who are virtuous, be delighted. And in the company of the troublemakers, be indifferent. This is, he says, how to preserve our peace of mind. Somebody's happy, we are happy with them. We are not jealous. We may be having a hard time or a bad day, but somebody's happy, we are happy for them. We are friendly. Somebody's unhappy, we try to empathize with them, feel for them, help in any way we can. Somebody's virtuous, we are delighted. We seek the company of the virtuous. And somebody's apunya, troublemaker, be indifferent. Don't fight them. You can never win. If you're a spiritual aspirant and you have to face a troublemaker, you have to be indifferent, or you can never win a fight. The only way is to make them your friends. So how does Vedanta help us? Well, we try to serve everyone with this attitude, Tattvamasi, you are that divine. I am one with you. Now, I may not be able to express it openly. And sometimes we may have to stay away from the other person. But inwardly we have that attitude. Tattvamasi, you are that. You are divine. And I respect you as such. Finally, we come to our relationship with the whole cosmos. Where do we fit in? In the Manduki Upanishad, we find this Mahavakya. Ayamatma Brahma. This Atman, this embodied self in every being, is nothing but Brahman, is nothing but the Supreme Self, is nothing but God. So the sentence just before this statement said, Sarvam hi etat Brahma. That means all this is verily Brahman, is verily God. So you can imagine the sage pointing like this with the finger. All this whole universe. Sarvam hi etat Brahma. All this. Ayam Atma Brahman. This is Brahman. This is Brahman. Ayam means this. This. Here and now. Don't close your eyes for meditation. Here and now. This Atman is Brahman. So it's not only Aham Brahmasmi, that I am Brahman. It is not only Tattvamasi, another human being that is Brahman. It is Ayamatma Brahman. Every being, every object is nothing but Brahman. This is more puzzling. Can you think of a chair as Brahman? That is harder. When you see consciousness, when you see intelligence, you can say, okay, Brahman is here. But you look at the experience of the saints and the avatars. Sri Ramakrishna, he says, the Divine Mother revealed to me in the temple that everything was made up of consciousness. The marble floor, the windowsill, the door, the image, myself, the utensils, everything is made up of consciousness. That was his experience. So even the utensils, even the marble floor, is the same divine consciousness that has become all this. So I am Atma Brahman. Everything is Brahman. And Sri Ramakrishna, he tells that once he went to pluck some bell leaves from the tree, and as he plucked the leaves, a little bit of bark came off. And he saw consciousness in that tree. And he felt bad for the tree. He said, since then I find it difficult. If I have to cut grass for the worship, I cannot do it. I have to force myself to cut the grass. He says, I cannot cut a lemon from the tree. I can with great difficulty. So I repeat Mother Kali's name, and I cut it like I am slaughtering an animal in sacrifice. He says, this is the attitude of sacrifice. I can cut the lemon from the tree. High state of consciousness. He sees consciousness in the tree. He sees consciousness in the utensils, in the marble floor. So for us, it's far away experience, but we can be inspired by it. And we can have that perspective on the world that, okay, I haven't reached there yet, but it makes sense. It appeals to me to think that everything is divine, that it is nothing but God that has become all this, everything. You know the story that we find in the Holy Mother's life. Somebody was sweeping the room with the broom, and when they finished, they threw it aside. And Holy Mother immediately scolded that person. What is this? You finish your job and you throw aside the broom carelessly? She says, won't you need it again? Whatever you save will save you in turn. Now, it's hard to think of a broom as our savior, but the idea is, if we take care of something, that will take care of us. It's a kind of mysterious law of the universe. We think a chair is inanimate, but in some way, if we treat it nicely, it will last longer. It will serve us better. So Holy Mother said, should you treat the broom like that just because it's a small part of our household? Still, it is part of our household, and it should be treated with respect as such. So the broom, in Holy Mother's mind, is part of her household. So consciousness is everywhere. So everything is connected in this way because everything comes from that source, that intelligence. The more we can feel this connection, what happens? The more we can feel it, the more we can help others. And at the same time, the more help we can get from others. It is both ways. If you feel that connection, you are not alone. One of the main sources of depression and mental illness is this feeling of disconnect, of being alone. This is a hostile world. Everybody is competing to stay alive, to have resources. And I am alone in this fight. What a terrible feeling. Compare that to the feeling that I am one with everything. It's one big family. And this competition and this friction and this fight for survival, it's on the surface. It's just nature playing out. Go below the surface. There is this underlying unity. If we have that kind of introspection, we will find that unity underlying, just beneath the surface. So the more we can feel that connectivity, the more we can help, and the more we can be helped. So finally, Vedanta gives us a sense of purpose. Other religions do as well, of course. All religions give an additional sense of purpose to our lives. What is the common thing that people aspire to? What is the goal of life just in the secular world? There are two things. Siddhim, Sukham. Success and happiness. Pretty universal. We want to succeed in something or other. If you are a mother, you want your child to be a success. You want your child to be healthy, to be intelligent, probably the best child in the world. That is the ideal. If you're a businessman, you want your business to thrive and do as well as possible, expand nationwide and worldwide. If you have to give a lecture, you try to do a good job. So in every, just because you're a Swami, you're not free from that. If you analyze, we all want to succeed in one way or other. Even after giving up the world, you still want to succeed in some way. So success is pretty universal. You're fixing a meal, you want people to enjoy the meal. You don't want it to be too salty or too dry or overcooked. So in everything, we want success. And then happiness. We want happiness. We seek the company of people who give us joy. If somebody's a pain in the neck, we don't seek their company. It's as simple as that. So this is pretty universal. Siddhi and Sukha. Everybody wants success and happiness. So what does Vedanta add to it? Param Gatim, the supreme goal. We have these two goals which are here and now. And there's nothing wrong with them. They are hardwired in us. We cannot say that, no, from today I will not try to be successful. Then, if I don't want to be successful, then when I plant the seeds in the garden, I will not water them because I don't care. It just doesn't work like that. It is hardwired in us that whatever undertaking we take up, we want to succeed. And we want to be happy. It is hardwired in us. But this is an additional goal, Param Gatim, the supreme goal. What is the supreme goal of Vedanta? Freedom. It is not salvation. It is freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from relative existence. This round of birth and death, becoming a human being or becoming some other kind of being, again and again and again. Vedanta says there comes a time when we get tired of it. We've had enough. We want to go back home. And home is that ocean of intelligence from which we came. So the additional goal that Vedanta gives us is the goal of freedom. The other day I was walking in Forest Park, and we have the zoo in Forest Park, and I was walking along the perimeter of the zoo, outside the zoo, and there is a big cage with birds. You may have seen it. It's like 3-4 stories high, huge cage. They have many types of birds. You can walk into the cage, and it's quite big. So that cage is the only display you can watch from outside the zoo. You are walking outside, and the cage comes right up to the sidewalk, pretty much. There's just a little distance. So from outside, you can see the birds in the cage. And I saw a cardinal inside the cage, and that caught my attention. I thought, what's the point of having a cardinal in the zoo, in the cage? They are flying freely just next to the cage. It's a local bird. Why would you keep it in the cage, in the zoo? It just makes no sense. And that bird was so unhappy. It was just perching there, motionless. So I stopped and I looked at it. And the bird was just motionless, bored to death. And I was wondering, how did this bird get inside here? I can't believe that deliberately it's part of the display to have a cardinal. It just makes no sense. All the other birds are exotic from other parts of the world. And I thought, well, perhaps accidentally it flew in, or who knows how it got there. But the fact that was obvious to me is that bird was not happy. That was pretty obvious. And I was thinking, life cannot be that bad. It's a pretty large cage. It can fly to some extent. And food, I'm sure, is not a problem. And there are no predators. If it builds a nest, nobody's going to disturb it. So it should be a pretty good life. Why should it be so sad? And the only reason I could think of is because it has lost its freedom. It is not free. I bet if you open the hole in that cage, it will fly out at the first opportunity. Now, If it escapes the cage, what happens? There are lots of predators. There's a lot of competition from other cardinals. There is the constant struggle to find food and stay alive. But the bird will prefer this life of hardship and uncertainty and danger to an easy life in the cage, where everything is provided. So why are we unhappy? Why are we dissatisfied? Why nothing seems to eventually be worth it? We try so many things in our lives, and everything falls short of our expectations. Whether it is possessions or relationships, it's always short of our expectation. Why? It's because even if we have everything we want, we are not free. Just like that little bird. So Vedanta says, your goal, my goal, everybody's goal is that freedom. And until we find it, yes, we may have plenty of food, we may have safety, but we will not be happy. We will not be satisfied. So, I think it's time to finish our talk. We saw some ways in which Vedanta can help us. Now, they are not very obvious ways, but I think we all experience this, that we get a clear idea of what God is, which is not dogmatic, which is very broad. We get a clear idea of who we are. We are divine. We may not have experienced it yet, but that is our nature. We get a clear idea of what others are in our lives. They are also divine, just like we are. And we get an idea of what this world is nothing but the divine. So when you look at these four Mahavakyas, you see like a thread running through all of them. Prajnanam Brahma. Brahman is consciousness. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, so I am consciousness, pure consciousness. Tattvamasi. You are that consciousness. I am Atma Brahma. This self in you, in me, in everything is Brahman, is consciousness. So the final conclusion is everything, absolutely everything is consciousness or intelligence. Om Asatu Ma Sadgamaya Tamasu Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from death to immortality. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.